Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you to our first pilot episode of Orwell's Minutemen. Today we will be discussing civil disobedience and the sort of qualifiers that come with the term. I am Lexington. I am joined today by my friend, colleague, and co-host, Concord.
Yeah, that one's me. And I'd like to add just a little qualifier to my colleague's last statement. We'd like to welcome all two of you to our pilot episode.
Hey, you never know. You never know. These things could explode, or they could also not.
They could, or they could not.
I'm personally hoping for the explosion sort of reaction, but you know,
keep dreaming.
I will.
Don't ever let anyone stifle your dreams.
All right. So today we're going to be discussing civil disobedience, as I previously stated. So recently, you may have seen the protests regarding Donald Trump's rally in Tucson, Arizona, over the past week. So what happened is, I'm going to put the article up right about now, is anti-Trump protesters were blocking a highway to prevent access to the rally by pro-Trump supporters. And my Concord and I have been discussing whether or not this is in violation of freedom of speech, or if it is justified by the civil disobedience sort of mantra that people have used to describe things such as the civil rights era, Tiananmen Square, events such as that historically did occur. So I want to ask you this question: if these protesters were actually pro-Trump and they had instead protested Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton rally, what do you think the social media response would have been?
I mean, that's... What kind of a question is that? I mean, we all know what the response would have
been. Pretend I don't know.
There would have been metaphorical riots in the streets.
Of course.
I'm not trying to bash on Hillary or Bernie here. I'm just talking about there would have been massive backlash against these people trying to protest a Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders rally. But because it's Trump, it's considered okay. Now, of course, we can discuss some of Trump's policies. We can discuss, Trump's presence in the public eye and how maybe that changes things. Maybe that makes it acceptable. But that's kind of the whole idea of the episode.
Yeah, of course. So, what the point that I'm trying to get across is, if they had protested a Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton rally by blocking the streets, the highways, and preventing access to these rallies, they would have been demonized. They would have been just hounded by the left. And I wonder then why it's okay for the social media to portray this as a they've almost portrayed these people as heroes, right? I mean, they think that they've been unjustly arrested by Sheriff Joe Arpaio, but I mean, we don't really like Arpaio.
No, I'm not an Arpaio fan.
I'm not either, but it doesn't matter. They broke the law.
They did. They definitely broke the law. And when you break the law, the consequences follow.
Mm-hmm.
I think a little backstory might be called for here. You want to tell them about the Facebook debacle?
Oh yeah. So I've personally approached this topic on my own personal Facebook, and I have several screenshots present of people who have voiced their opinions on the idea that no, it is okay because it's Trump, but it wouldn't be okay if it's Bernie or Hillary. Let's see if I can find this. I'm assuming most of them did eventually get to see Trump, but they were also forced to listen to the voices that he tries to silence. So this idea that they weren't doing it to prevent access to the rally. They were doing it to make their voices heard. And they did so through illegal means. Correct?
I mean, that's utter crap. You don't block a highway when you're not trying to prevent access to something.
Exactly. There are perfectly legal avenues to make your voice heard.
I mean, just go protest the rally, like so many others have done.
Oh, yeah. And
I will encourage you to do that. If you feel very, very strongly in your opinion against Trump, go to one of his rallies and protest there. But don't shut down a massive public transportation artery and then try to tell me that, well, we weren't actually trying to cut off access.
You are.
That's
the whole purpose. Otherwise, if you just wanted to make your voices heard, you would have gone to the rally. And people did go to the rally. They did protest the rally.
People were at the rally.
And that brings up my next point, that all Trump supporters are violent bigots. And that's a huge generalization.
That's a massive generalization.
Massive generalization. And we have an article here from CBS talking about how there was actually an African-American police officer who went to the rally as a civilian. And I'll put the article up right here. It says there was a lot of hatred and maliciousness going on. The thing that stood out to me, the police officer, was that it was the protesters that were violent and were hostile towards the Trump supporters, not the other way around. And I mean, we have to take into consideration that yes, Trump is very aggressive, his supporters are very aggressive, but they haven't broken the law, at least to my knowledge.
Not that we know of. And you know, if a Trump supporter does break the law at a Trump rally, they will be dealt with.
They were, yeah. In fact,
by proper means. Now, I think it's also important to qualify that. You know, we're not trying to say that all Trump's protesters are violent or all Trump supporters are pacifist. What we're trying to get across here is that there is violence and misconduct on both sides.
Exactly, and even in the same article, the police officer goes on to mention a Trump supporter that was goaded into violence by a protester. The Trump supporter was arrested. The law was broken.
The law was broken. And
justice was served against a Trump supporter at a Trump rally. So to say that these left-winged protesters should be held to a different standard than Trump supporters simply because Trump supporters are more aggressive about their opinions is absolutely ridiculous, I think.
It is ridiculous. I was going to say something, and now I don't remember what it was.
Well, if it comes back, just
keep going.
Okay, so back to that Facebook post that I was showing. It's back on the screen now. If you read the last portion of it, it says that if civil rights protesters hadn't broken the law, we might still have colored drinking fountains. The same principles apply here. Thoughts?
No, I'm sorry.
I'm glad we agree.
Now this did give me a moment's pause, and I thought about it for a little bit. But ultimately, the conclusion that I reached was, during the civil rights movement, discrimination and oppression was palpable. You could feel it in the air. It was
institutionalized.
It was institutionalized in the law.
Jim Crow laws were around. They were a thing that actively oppressed these people.
Yes, and because at this point, tyranny had become law.
Exactly.
And so civil disobedience was their version of a revolution. Mm-hmm. This is the same type of thing we saw go on in Tiananmen Square.
Yep.
But here, tyranny is not law.
It's someone's opinion.
Simply because Trump is running for president, I mean that I can get up on my soapbox and I could choose any ethnic minority, any religion, any group, and I could call for their destruction all day long. But until such time as I act on that, no legal action can be brought against them.
Exactly. You can't preemptively punish someone for something that they might do. The very thought is Orwellian in nature.
That is thought crime.
That is thought crime, exactly.
That is convicting them of thought crime.
And so this idea that these protesters were doing civil disobedience is, I believe, unfounded. Well, perhaps they were doing civil disobedience, but it wasn't called for. It wasn't justified civil disobedience.
No.
And, I mean, their form of protest wasn't exactly as peaceful. Well, no, it was peaceful. That is true.
It was peaceful.
It was peaceful,
yes.
Although there were some concerns that what if emergency vehicles needed to use the highway?
But that's certainly a relevant concern.
It's a relevant concern. This is something that they clearly didn't think of. And so instead, you have, back during the civil rights movement, you have sit-ins. You have people chaining themselves to buildings, trees, whatever they can find.
Whatever was in the area.
Exactly. and protesting that way. And that's perfectly reasonable. They are breaking the law.
They are breaking the law, yes.
They are breaking the law, but they aren't really hurting anyone, whereas this protest could have hurt people.
It could have. I think it's important to point out that I don't think it was the intention of these.
No, of course it wasn't.
I think it was just an oversight. I doubt they went out like, yeah, let's block the highway and stop the ambulances from getting through.
No. It was more along the lines of, hey, let's block the highway to prevent people from going to the Trump rally.
Yes.
And to operate under the assumption that that wasn't their intention. That's exactly what their intent was.
No, No.
And so we have another. This is different from the other person that we had discussed earlier on the Facebook argument that I had, and this is what they have to say. I'm putting it on the screen as well. I don't know about this. Sit-ins were commonplace in the 70s. Again, misconception that you can draw correlations between civil rights and this. I don't think you can. I honestly don't think you can. They would chain themselves to trees, buildings, you name it, as I said earlier. I guess the real question becomes, is civil disobedience required to be convenient for those not involved?
What?
So,
I mean,
of course it's not, right? You in order for civil disobedience to achieve the attention of the institution that is perpetuating this oppression, you have to make it inconvenient for people.
You also have to understand that during the civil rights movement, most of these sit-ins and things of that nature were directly opposing racist laws. Mm-hmm. No colored people in this diner. So all the colored people go sit in the diner.
Exactly.
Rosa Parks, no black people at the front of the bus. So she sat at the front of the bus. They were actively defying laws that were racist, that were discriminatory. Mm-hmm. These people here, they were just blocking a highway.
They were opposing Trump's bigotry in a rather I don't know. It wasn't exactly practical. Their message was lost, as you can see.
I definitely agree there.
Yeah. See, he goes on to say, I think their message was right, but it was obscured by their actions, which made it irrelevant. It became the crazy anti-Trumpers versus the racist bigot pro-Trumpers, and I agree with that. I do agree with that because I do believe their intentions were good because I personally align myself with that. I do think that Trump is a racist bigot.
I harbor no love for Trump. I'm sorry, any Trump supporters out there, but leave your comments and try to justify to me why I should vote for Trump.
Well, we are defending Trump's freedom of speech right now.
I am not defending Trump's policies here. What I'm defending is essentially freedom of speech.
Exactly.
And the rule of law.
Yeah, and so. The other person that we referred to at the beginning, or at least before this person, says something that did make me think. And my initial reaction was, oh boy, no, that is terrible. Like, we can't do that. But then I thought about it, and it's the statement that morality supersedes legality. And my initial reaction, I think, was a bit unfounded, but I do think that morality should supersede legality. All right, because these laws, these Jim Crow laws during the Civil Rights Movement, were immoral.
Certainly.
But they were law. So fighting these laws was justified because they were immoral. But there's no law to fight here.
No, there's
You're fighting a bigot, and you're breaking the law to do it.
And there are plenty of legal ways to fight these bigots.
Mm-hmm. As we saw earlier, there were protesters at the rally, although I would encourage you to be not violent. Don't break the law.
And more importantly, there are more effective ways to fight these bigots.
Exactly.
I mean, what message did these people get across? Because the message that I got out of this was, oh wow, look at those insane liberals blocking off the highway. Oh God, don't associate yourselves with them. And I would be willing to put money on the assertion that not a single Trump supporter was swayed away from Trump because you blocked that highway. If anything, you galvanized those Trump supporters. Mm-hmm. You just said, "Oh, yeah, see, that's why we got to vote for Trump." Like, I'm not sure what their end game was here. Like, what they thought was gonna happen. And maybe I'm completely wrong. But that's certainly what I got out of this. If you guys got something different out of this, obviously that's fine.
So
that's what I got out of it.
But so back to the point, morality supersedes legality, and if you look at all the points that the historical events that they refer to, they mostly focus on the civil rights era, as we talk about, and Tiananmen Square. Because for those of you who don't know, Tiananmen Square was Chinese student protests, right? For freedom of speech
in '89, I think.
Yeah, and everyone knows Tank Guy, right?
Everybody knows Tank Guy.
Guy's great.
Tank Guy has become an international icon.
Right.
He's a personal hero of mine.
He was fighting, or rather, all the protesters in Tiananmen Square were fighting for the right to be able to speak their mind, because the institution that they were under,
the institution being the Chinese government.
The Chinese government, yes, actively oppressed the idea that speech should be free, and all these ideas that I think, personally take for granted here in America.
Oh, definitely. That's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, but these are two instances that they like to use where the institution is actively oppressing these people. This doesn't apply because the American government isn't oppressing you. Trump's opinion is racist. Yes, it's racist. I do think it's racist. I think he's a bigot, but he should be allowed to be a bigot, right?
Yes. I mean, look, if you want to be a racist and you want to sit in your living room or, make YouTube videos about how, the ethnic minorities are bringing down the United States, you have every right to do that. I will debate those points with you. I will try to convince you away from them. But you have every right to say that. Because if I see that you don't, I am condemning you because of an opinion, not because of an action. And again, this comes back to this idea of thought crime. You think wrong.
Exactly. They're breaking the law to oppose Trump because he might be racist if he becomes president.
Which I mean, let's clear one thing up very, very clearly. Trump is not getting the nomination.
He's not going to.
Okay.
I know if he gets the nomination, we're going to look back on this and feel pretty stupid.
If he gets the nomination, I will flog myself repeatedly. I
won't do that.
I mean, I will actually do that. I promise. But the GOP hates Trump.
Yeah, they're moving towards a brokered convention. And for those of you who don't know what a brokered convention is, it's when no candidates that are currently running in the primaries achieve the required number of votes for getting the nomination. And so then the GOP goes to some convoluted process that only they really know to select a candidate.
It's like choosing the Pope.
Yeah, it's it's like choosing the Pope. And so I don't think that Trump's going to get the nomination. I think, I think that the GOP is going to pick someone that they find rather sensible, and whether or not that the GOP picks someone that you find sensible, that's completely subjective.
Yeah.
But the fact remains that the GOP does not like Trump. So I think we've gotten a little off track.
We have.
But civil disobedience. Okay. So who is in the wrong here? Who do you think is in the wrong here?
The protesters. Yeah. Because they're not morally in the wrong, but they've taken a bad course of action to try to achieve a positive end. And the ends don't justify the means here.
They don't.
I'm sorry. And besides, you're not ever going to meet that justified end by using these tactics, by using these bully tactics.
You're not. And so Trump supporters are violent bigot bullies. I do think that, I mean, that is a generalization.
A lot of them are.
A lot of them are. Not all of them, but a generalization, although we can't really use that because of Sargon's law of generalization.
You're absolutely right.
I'm going to put that up on the screen for those of you who don't know. It's well, everyone doesn't know. We created that definition.
Yeah, we kind of created it.
Yeah, so we can't really use a generalization, but I suppose in general they are violent bigoted bullies. But they are allowed to be violent, bigoted bullies. It doesn't matter, I mean, for the sake of argument, we're saying that they are. But they're allowed to be. That is their right in the Constitution. They are allowed to make their voices heard.
Tying into this, a while back, I don't have an official citation for this, I just remembered it. I was reading an article about some branch of the Ku Klux Klan that was, or maybe it wasn't the Ku Klux Klan, it was some neo-Nazi group. Again, I just recalled this. I didn't prepare for this or anything. They were planning on holding a rally somewhere in the South, and a bunch of African-American individuals showed up and began enacting violence against these neo-Nazis. Now, I find neo-Nazis to be deplorable. Mm-hmm. Absolute scum of the earth. I'm sorry to any neo-Nazis listening.
I'm not.
You're the scum of the earth. God. But they were not armed. There was no signs that they were going to do anything violent. They were just meeting up to basically hold a rally. Now, my knee-jerk reaction to this was, good, show those neo-Nazi scum. But then I thought, wait a minute. A group of American citizens are exercising their right to peaceable assembly. And then they are set upon by people who disagree with them, and rightfully so. But violence is enacted upon them. And so, I'm sorry, I fully agree that Nazism should be fought at every possible juncture. But not like this.
No.
Not like this.
That was not justified civil disobedience because they were breaking the law.
That's not even civil disobedience.
That's just violence. That's
gang
violent
as
disobedience.
Jeez.
So back on point. The intentions were good.
Were good.
The actions were
less so.
Yeah, it was the protest was in itself immoral, despite the intentions being good, because they were oppressing freedom of speech. It was immoral.
Yes, ultimately. So actively trying to silence Trump by keeping his supporters from hearing his message.
Yes,
it's kind of a roundabout suppression of free speech.
Sort of. It's almost it's a bit convoluted, but it's still violating freedom of speech. So the illegal and immoral execution of this protest is really what drives home the idea that these protesters are wrong. They are in the wrong, and so because of that, we have come to sort of analyze like why Trump supporters are so demonized in the media when they're just exercising their right to freedom of speech, but these left-wing protesters are elevated because they, I don't know why they're elevated. They should be demonized. Yeah. It's not okay.
You always come across sounding like a conspiracy theorist when you say that the left has kind of a stranglehold on the media. But the more I've looked into it, the more I've realized that the left has a very strong influence in the media.
Yeah, they do.
And I'm not saying that like the Democratic Party is influencing the media to spread propaganda or anything, but I think there are definitely more left-leaning news stations than there are right-leaning ones. I mean, name right-wing news stations. Fox. Steven Crowder.
I don't know.
You got Rush Limbaugh on the radio.
Yeah.
You've got PragerU.
All right.
Those are the only ones I can name.
I mean, we didn't really prepare for this, otherwise we would have, lists.
Yeah, we would actually have a list.
But I mean,
this is all done off the cuff, guys. This is
So left-wing news stations.
MSNBC, CNN, NBC,
Huffington Post,
the Young Turks.
Oh, Chink. So now we're going to sort of address what we refer to as Orwell's consensus, which is sort of based on Orwellian thought, and I don't mean Orwellian thought as in like thought crimes. I mean
like the thoughts of Orwell.
The thoughts of Orwell. All right, we on authoritarianism, because the left these protesters are preemptively punishing Trump for probable bigotry in office? Highly probable, but it still hasn't occurred yet.
Highly probable. I mean, we know Trump is a bigot, but you also have to take into account that the president is not an autocrat. The president, unless you use an executive order, he can't just say, I decree this, make it so.
Yeah. So
checks and balances.
Yeah, exactly. So preemptively punishing Trump for what he might do in office, that's authoritarianism, lefties. All right?
Lefties.
That's authoritarianism. You get +5 authoritarianism points, guys. All right? However, Trump simply existing, don't worry, we got you. Trump simply existing is +1 authoritarianism point for the righties.
I think that's generous. But, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't done anything.
You're right. He hasn't done anything. But,
in fact,
he is
giving
the
him
Republican frontrunner.
Giving him that authoritarianism point is actually technically punishing him for something he hasn't done yet, and that makes us authoritarian.
I mean, he has been a bigot, and he has expressed desire to enact authoritarian policies.
Yes. So that's why we're not giving.
I mean, I'm kind of going back over in my head all the things we've said here, and I want to make it abundantly clear that Trump is an authoritarian.
Oh yes.
And this is a show dedicated to pointing out authoritarianism.
Yes.
Calling it out when we see it.
We're not ignoring the authoritarianism coming from Trump. We're just pointing out that something that recently has occurred that is being elevated. We're pointing out authoritarianism that is being elevated by the media.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. We're not discounting
at the very
Trump
least,
and his authoritarianism. We don't like Trump.
No.
We don't like Trump.
No. Oh,
so you can't, again, so the Orwellian nightmare of this episode would be you cannot preemptively punish someone for what they might do. That is thought crime.
Or rather, would the nightmare be you can preemptively punish people?
I suppose, yes, you can. You can. So, yes. So, now we move on to what constitutes civil disobedience, justified civil disobedience.
That is a wonderful question. And one that I will field, well, because there's no one else here. In my opinion, civil disobedience becomes justified when you have institutionalized oppression.
Yes.
When people are actually being oppressed, their rights are either being infringed upon, they're not there at all, or they are being suppressed by an institution.
An institution.
Be that a government, be that, some other group. Then it is indeed justified to civilly disobey.
Yes. So I have 4 points that I had a lot more time to prepare for this. I'm sort of leading this time around. There will be times when Concord is leading.
I'm just here for comic relief. This
is where normally it's me.
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah. So the 4 points that I have is there needs to be active, ongoing oppression or violation of people's rights.
Agreed. Fully agreed.
That is not present here. It's not present here.
No, it's not. As much as people like to say, "Oh, the United States is such a racist country. Oh, the United States is such a homophobic country," yeah, in isolated incidences, I am yet to see any solid evidence to suggest that the United States is just a horribly racist place. I'm yet to see that. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to convince me of that first.
And maybe the American people are, but the government sure isn't. I mean,
I don't even think the American people are.
I mean that's the isolated incidents though. The isolated incidents aren't coming from the government; they're coming from the American people.
Yeah, I mean, in the United States, we have so many laws in place that are supposed to guarantee equality of opportunity. You've got the Equal Pay Act of 1963. You have the 14th Amendment. You have the Civil Rights Act. All of these are institutionalized facets of our legislative system that are designed to ensure that everyone has equality.
I completely agree. So moving on, the second point that I have of my 4 points of civil disobedience, my 4-point plan. Is attacking when you are doing civil disobedience, you need to be attacking the institution responsible for perpetual. You don't want to just attack random people.
That's borderline terrorism.
Yeah.
I mean, well, let's see. I don't like this wall. I can't speak. I don't like this law. I'm gonna go bomb a school.
Exactly. The school's not. So you need to attack whoever is enforcing that law to make them change it. Because that school's not gonna suddenly say, "Hey, let's reverse this law."
That former example is terrorism.
Yeah. So I don't think that's present here because there's no institution that's perpetuating this. So they're not.
No, there isn't.
Even if they were attacking an institution, which they're not. They're not attacking the institution responsible because the American government isn't doing this.
Unless you want to attack free and open elections.
Exactly. Do you want to You want to attack
You
free
want
and
to attack free and
open
open elections?
Are you
Yeah.
communist?
Okay. Come on. Come on.
So, point 3 is it needs to be a peaceful, non-violent protest.
Which this one was.
This one was.
It fulfills that criterion.
It wasn't exactly well thought out.
No.
Because of the whole emergency vehicle thing. I do think that was a legitimate concern.
They weren't violent.
They weren't
They
violent.
were not attacking people. They were not... as far as I know, anyway.
And when they were arrested by Sheriff Arpaio, I do believe that they went peacefully. They did not fight back. They, so they do fulfill this criteria, that it was peaceful and it was nonviolent. However, the fourth point is that the morality, as this point that we made earlier, the morality must supersede the legality. There's no laws. So, and also, well, I mean, there is law. The law to block it's illegal to block a highway.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's paid for by the taxpayers.
Yeah.
I pay for that wall. Or that... Why I keep saying wall? It's probably because I'm thinking about Trump.
Mexico's going to pay for the wall.
Mexico's going to pay for our walls.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
And so...
I pay for that highway.
However, even if, there wasn't laws in place for that, the morality is still an aspect that you need to consider because you are actively stomping on people's right to free speech. And so you're not only performing an illegal action, but you're doing it through immoral channels, and that is, not good. It doesn't matter what your intent was because the ends don't justify the means in this scenario.
Yeah, I think another important point to bring up would be that infringing upon freedom of speech doesn't just mean, in my opinion anyway, stopping people from speaking their opinion. It also constitutes stopping people from listening to other opinions.
Yeah.
This is kind of where Ray Bradbury starts to get thrown into the mix with Fahrenheit 451. You don't have to burn books. You just have to get people to stop reading. Mm-hmm. I can scream my opinions all day long, but if nobody hears them, it's a zero-sum game.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, you may have seen it on one of the Facebook posts that I had shown. What about the idea that people have the right to not hear opposing ideas?
You do have that right. No one's forcing you to go to a Trump rally.
Yeah. Well, in this case, the context of this is these protesters are forcing their opinion on those people that are trying to pass.
Oh yeah.
Is that a violation of those people, the peoples that the voices are being forced upon? Is that a violation of their rights?
I mean, it's kind of an odd question because these people aren't. They're not actually forcing you to agree with them. They're not pointing a gun at you and saying, "Say you hate Trump. Say it."
No,
they're just saying they're trying to demand that you listen to them, mm-hmm. which you can't force anyone to listen to you.
Yeah.
And I don't get the feeling that these people were in any position to actually pull that off.
Mm-hmm. So, anyway, we're about wrapping up. So, what constitutes civil disobedience? In this case, those 4 points that we listed, I think, are a decent means of judging whether or not something is justified civil disobedience. Mm-hmm. And so, if we use that as a criteria, this protest, I got 1 out of 4. And you need 4 out of 4 to be justified, I think. If you violate even one of those, then sorry, it's not justified. No. So, that's our consensus. Thank you all for, if any, for joining us and hearing our our ideas that we are putting out on the interwebs.
Yeah, down in the comments, agree, disagree, debate. I would just ask, I think we both would ask, you just kind of keep things civil.
Yeah, keep things civil. Toss us a like if you agree. Toss us a dislike if you don't agree.
Or toss us a like if you disagree, because, reasons.
Yeah. He's saying like the video. And if you want to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. This is our pilot episode. We're going to see how well it does. And, So, thank you all for hearing us out. We've been the Orwell's Minutemen, Lexington.
Concord,
Signing out.
Godspeed.